Hey, what's up everybody? This is the Helpful Hacker, and today we are going over the blue room from TryHackMe. So we're going to jump right in and get started with task number 1, recon. So start your machine. I already have my machine started. I also have my attack box ready to go. So get those started, and then this machine, just so you know, the whole point is that it utilizes a very common and a common exploit that was a really big deal when it came out, and so now it's commonly used for like training purposes and stuff. And that exploit is called Eternal Blue, which you can just read right there. And that's why the room is called blue. So you can read through all that, and then we will get down to the questions. So the first question, scan the machine. If you are unsure how to tackle this, I recommend checking out the Nmap room. So we'll use Nmap to scan the machine, but before I do that, let me real quickly just grab this IP address. So here, if I can type, good heavens, nmap -sv, and then paste the IP address. Okay, so what I'm doing here, Nmap is a tool that's used to scan networks and see what's running on them. And in this case, it can do a lot of other stuff, but what I'm using it for here is just to scan this target machine. That's the IP address of it. And then I'm using this -sv so that it'll tell me the version of any services that it can identify. So it's going to try to find the version of anything that's open on this target machine. So we'll let that run for a minute and see what we get. Okay, so we can see we got our results here. So let's take a look at what it was actually asking us for. So we scanned it. How many ports are open with a port number under 1000? Let's see, 1, 2, 3. So there are 3 ports that have a number under 1000. And then what is the machine vulnerable to? Okay, so this one, how do you know what a machine's vulnerable to just from this Nmap scan that they had you run? Well, you kind of have to do some research. And the general workflow for something like this is you're just going to go through the different services, and as you get more experience, you'll know which services to look for, which ones tend to be a bit more vulnerable versus others. So it's just kind of something that you get a knack for as you go. If you're just starting out, then what I recommend is try and find what looks different. And so if you notice, all of these are exactly the same. So that right there, that probably tells you, if I'm gonna look into stuff, I'm gonna look into those last, right? And then we see the exact same thing up here, right? And that's the same as all of those. So probably not that one. So now at this point, I've narrowed it down to these 3. And then what you can do is you can try and find what's most different here. And if you if you have experience, you know that this port 445 can often be vulnerable to stuff. And you can do a lot of digging in that port. So again, stuff that you kind of learn, but for now, if you're just starting out, you might have to try things, and then you'll realize that's not what they want, and then you'll have to try others. But as a general recommendation, look for what's the most different. And then we're going to take this whole thing. I'm going to copy that because this is our version, right? So we have the port, the state, the service, and the version. And this looks the most different to me. And plus, I just know what the Eternal Blue exploit is and all of that. So it's a little unfair because I know how all this works. But if you didn't, you would just pick what's different, which you'd narrowed it down to these 3. And we'll just say you randomly pick this one first to test out. So I would copy that, come into a browser, paste it, and just see what you get. And just start learning about the service that's run on it and the different stuff. And again, because this is such a well-known exploit, you can see stuff in here that just gives us the answer. Most of the time, that's not exactly how it's going to happen. Sometimes it will, but other times you'll have to do a bit more digging. So you can just Google it to research about it. And then once you've done a little bit of research, you can go to the exploit database, And so now you know a little bit about the port, you know kind of what it does, and you maybe have learned a little bit about it. And so then you can go to SearchDB, and we'll just do Windows 7. And if we just search that, because we know that that was in the version, we can already see we've already narrowed it down to like 45 entries that specifically call out Windows 7. So that's pretty cool. Now, if we want to narrow it down more, we can add other, more information about it. Here, an easy one to do is just the port number that the service was on. So if we search that, now we've narrowed it down to 3, and then you could not 3, we've narrowed it down to 4. And now you could kind of read through these and see, which one they probably want. If we take a look at the question, they want it in this MS --3 format. So if we look at this, there's really only one that's highlighting that, and that's this top one right here, this MS 17-010. So you can copy that, and then we'll paste it in here and see if that's what they want. That is what they want. So now we know what it's vulnerable to. So with that, we are done with task 1, recon. Now it's on to task 2, gaining access. So the first thing they're going to have us do is start Metasploit. So that's just the MSF console command. And now we'll wait for that to load up. Okay, so now we can see Metasploit has loaded for us. So what does it want us to do? Now that we've completed that, find the exploit code we will run against the machine. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a simple search, and I'm going to search MS17 because those were some of the things in there, and I'm pretty sure that's specific enough that we should be able to find it. So we'll let that run and see what we get. Okay, so we can see that loaded up. So now if we scroll up, we can see right here, and I'm sorry it's highlighted in yellow, it makes it hard to read, but this is the exact number that we were looking for. And we see this number in multiple places because again, these exploits are all related. But what we can do here is we can just copy and kind of paste these into the question to actually figure out which one they want. Now I already know it's the first one, so that's going to be the correct answer. And then what it wants us to do, it wants us to show options and set the one required value. So to show options on that, we first have to select it by using use 0. And then we can do show options. Now that we have our options shown, we can kind of see what's going on. We have a few required options, but all of them are automatically filled out except for this one, the R hosts. So set the one required value. So what is the name of this value? That would be R hosts. And so we will actually set that, and we do that by getting our target IP address. And then we use the set command. What do we want to set? We want to set the R hosts value. What do we want to set it to? We want to set it to our target IP address. So we can set that. And now if we show options again, we should see that that has changed. So we can see that that's changed. Now, if we go back, what else do they want us to do? They let us know that if you wanted to, you could run this and it would work fine. But because they're going to try and teach us some stuff later, they want us to copy this and set this payload. So I'm just going to copy their command and paste it in. And that automatically ran for me. So, but before we just move on, the payload option is right here in our show options. And we can see it defaulted to this payload, but the payload that they want us to do is different. It just says shell. It doesn't say meterpreter. So you can see the difference there between the two. And so we set that. So now if I come down here and I do show options, we can see that my payload now says shell instead of meterpreter right there. So we've changed the payload like they wanted us to, and now we should be able to run the exploit. So let's run it and see what happens. Okay, so we can see here it gave us this little win, and now we have a prompt here. So we are in the shell. And we can see who we are by typing in the who am I command. And we are NT authority system. So highest privileges. Now we can mark that complete. So we know it's run correctly. Now we want to background this shell, and we do that using Control Z. So Control C, Z, and then yes, I do want to background it. And now if I type in sessions, I can see my background shell right here, and it has an ID of 1. So, and there it is. So we've done that. Let's jump back. We'll mark that complete. And now we are done with task number 2. Now on to task number 3, escalate. So it wants us to background the session and then research online how to convert shell to meterpreter shell in Metasploit. So I'm lazy. I'm just going to Google that and plug it in and see what we get. You can use the shell to meterpreter module. Okay, great. So we can search shell to meterpreter. If I wanted to, I could have dug through here and probably found out the whole name and just typed in use and then the full pathway, but I'm just going to do this instead. So I searched it. Now I'm on use 0, or I issued the command use 0. So now I'm inside this multi-managed shell to meterpreter module. So now, like anytime you get a new module, you should take a look at the options. And here are some of our options. Let's see what their question is. So what is the name of this module? So if we look up here, the name of this module is post multi manage and then shell to meterpreter. So let's paste that in there. Submit that, and that's the right answer. Sometimes people will come down here and they'll copy just this multi-managed shell to meterpreter, but they do want that post included, and they make that clear up here when they say it's a post module, so they want that as well. And then we can take a look at those options again. I guess we already have them up, so we'll look at these options. We have 3 required options. 2 of them are already filled out, so the only one that's not is session. So they want to know what option are we required to change. That would be session. Now we need to set that option. So to do that, we first, what I did earlier, you type in sessions and it'll show you all the sessions that you have with their number. And this is how we ID them. So if I want to set sessions or session to 1, what I'm doing there is I'm saying this session is now going to be plugged into this module. And so I'm going to go use that. So now we've done that. Run. If this doesn't work, blah, 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 blah. So let's just run this, see what happens. Okay, great. So we can see here, we now have 2 sessions. So this, it said post module execution complete, and then it started doing some other stuff. So I just interrupted that using Control C. Again, exploits, they don't always work perfectly. So if you tried doing that, or if you tried the previous exploit, the Eternal Blue exploit, the first one that we did, and if something goes wrong, then you may just have to restart either the target machine or your attack box, or sometimes both, and just try it again. And I know it's a pain, but sometimes that's what you have to do, because again, with exploits, we're hacking and things don't always work out the way they're supposed to, because we're making computers do things that they shouldn't be doing. So we did that. Now that the meterpreter shell conversion has been completed, select the session for use. So now we're back here. I typed in sessions. I can see all my sessions, and the meterpreter shell is now session ID number 2. So to get in there, I can do sessions 2, and now I'm inside that meterpreter shell. So we can mark that complete. And then they want us to verify that we have NT authority system. You can issue the get UID command, and that will get you the user ID. We do have NT authority system, so that works great. And then it wants us to it wants us to list the processes, find one towards the bottom, and mark its ID. So to list the processes that are running, we do PS. And now we can pick a process here down at the bottom. So I'm going to just choose cmd.exe, which is 2956. And then it wants us to migrate to that process. And the way that we do that is we just do the migrate command followed by the PID number. So not this number, but the first number that we see. And I chose command.exe, so I'm going to do 2956 and see what happens. Okay, so I jumped to this point. Just so you know, what happened is when I tried to migrate the first time, it didn't work. It ended up ruining my shell. So then I tried to rerun my shell to interpreter module, and that wasn't working. I tried changing the listening port, which sometimes helps, which is one of the options. So I was doing a bunch of different stuff. Finally, I had to terminate my attack, my target machine, restart it, redo the Eternal Blue exploit, redo the interpreter to shell, and then try again to migrate to service that would actually work for me. So, you know, if any of those steps, whether when you're doing the initial Eternal Blue exploit, the MS-17, if you're doing the shell to interpreter, or if you're doing the migration and something goes wrong, you can keep trying a few times, and if that doesn't work, just restart systems if you have to, because that's what I just had to do. So now we have finally migrated to something, so we can mark all that complete. And with that, we are done with task 2, gain access. Now it's on to task 3, learn how to upgrade shells. And oh wait, I was already on task 3, my bad. We're all the way down here. I jumped up to task 2 because I needed this payload again. So I lost my place. Here we are. So escalation, we have moved, and we want to make sure we're running as NT. So get user ID. We are still NT authority system. So we're all good there. So mark complete. And we migrated processes, so we can mark that complete as well. And with that, we are done with task number 3. Now it's on to task number 4, cracking. So now they want us to dump the non-default user's passwords and crack it. So the way that we do that is we use a command called #dump. This will dump the hashes. And what we want is this second half. This first half is outdated. That's why these match. If you look, these numbers match up, and that's because it's outdated and people don't use it anymore. So this second half of the hash, or this second hash, is where the password actually is. So we want John's hashed password. So I copy that, and then what it wants us to do, well, first let's answer this question. What is the name of the non-default user? That would be John. Now we want to copy that hash and crack it. We could do that multiple ways in the terminal if we wanted to. We could use Hashcat or John the Ripper. I am just going to Google a hash cracker. And then I'll select this first one. We can paste that in there. And then just see if an online hash cracker works. And it does. And this is our password. So I'm going to copy that. And then we'll jump back to the question. What is the cracked password? It's this ALQFNA22. So submit that. And with that, you're done with task number 4. Now it's on to task number 5, finding flags. So on most TryHackMe, Hack the Box, you're going to find flags. And these flags are usually just like little tokens, essentially, that show that you've gotten somewhere or that you've done something. So we'll go look for some. So the first one is going to be found at the system root. So to get there, an easy way to get there is CD and then this /. And that will send you right to the root, or in Windows, it's the C drive. So now if we ls the root, we can see right here, we have flag1.txt. So let's cat that. And we get this flag. So it's flag access the machine. So we can copy that and we can paste that flag there, hit submit. Now it's on to flag number 2. So this flag can be found at the location where passwords are stored within Windows. So if we don't know where that is, we can just Google where are passwords stored in Windows. And then here we get an answer. You could read through some of these too if you don't trust AI yet. But yeah, in the C drive, Windows System32 config, and then there's a SAM file. So that's where we want to be. So Windows System32 config. So let's cd into Windows. We'll do System32, and then it was config. Now, if you notice, some of you might try to put SAM, because now if I print my working directory, which tells me where I'm at, this is where I am. Some of you might be trying to CD all the way into SAM, but that's not right because SAM is a file. It's not a directory. So now I am in the directory where the passwords are stored, and they're stored in that SAM file. So if I ls and just list everything from here, I can see there's all this stuff, including the SAM files. But down here, there's this flag2.txt. So we can cat that. And there's the flag for that. Oh, nope, too much. So we'll copy that. Paste it in there. Submit that. That's the correct answer. Now we're looking for flag 3. Administrators usually have pretty interesting things saved. So if we wanted to, I'll go back to root, and we could do search -F for file name, and then we could search flag 3 followed by an asterisk, followed by an asterisk. Or you could assume that it's a .txt file, and you could just search for it, and there's a good chance it'll tell you. But instead, we're just going to go through the process from root and kind of get an idea of where they want us to go based on the questions. Oh, so my Meterpreter session just died. So what I may have to do is run this module again. So I'm going to try to run this and see if it works. Okay, so here you can see I had to rerun it. I waited for a minute and it kind of started, said it was executed, and then showed me some more, and then other stuff started happening. So I just type in, if that happens, you can just type in sessions, and I typed in sessions to check and see if my Meterpreter shell was there, and it wasn't quite done yet for whatever reason, so I'm not sure why it said completed. And then I ran sessions again, and now I can see the Meterpreter shell there. And now we can see that Meterpreter session 11 has been opened. So I'm going to type in sessions again to see if it's there. And now I'm going to do sessions 11 to get in it. Okay, great. Now if I do get UID to check my user privileges. Okay, so I'm still NT authority system. I'm going to move into the root directory. This is all a good example because, again, things don't always go the way you want them to. I was right at the end, and then boom, next thing you know, my shell dies. So stuff like that happens all the time, so you got to be ready for it. So back to where we were, we're looking for this one, and it's where in the clue that they give us is administrators usually have pretty interesting things saved. So let's ls, see what we have. And I'm going to cd into users and see if there's maybe an admin user. So if I ls, I see all my default users, I see public, and I see John. So I don't see anything called admin, but we can cd into John and see what's in there. So if I ls in John, I can see there's nothing in there. Also, by the way, these double dashes and stuff at the end, I'm hitting tab complete and those are being auto-filled, just FYI, if you don't know how to do that. So I'm going to go into John's documents. And again, I'm using tab complete. So once I type in enough of documents, it should auto-complete for me with tab. So now I'm inside John's documents, and if I ls, I can see flag 3. So let's cat flag 3.txt. And we can see the flag here. So this is our flag, so we can copy that, paste it, and then submit it. So with that, we have finished task 7. Not task 7, sorry, we finished task number 5. And I hope you found the video helpful. If you did, give it a like and subscribe. That helps me out a lot. And with that, from TryHackMe.